Hello there and welcome back to another edition of the Hot Lap Classic Remastered. This time, it's time to start taking a look at the cars of the Project Aspec mod. For those of you who don't know what Project Aspec is somehow, it is a giant modification for Gran Turismo 2 that adds a whole load of unique and interesting vehicles, new events. It's really cool. If you want to check out anything to do with Project Aspec, of course, I've done several videos on this channel, which you may have even found me through. So, of course, now we can start taking a look at the Project Aspec cars, now that we've gone through all of the vanilla cars, all 642 of them, and now we've got 147 cars as of the 1.2.1 update to take a look at with Aspec, and perhaps even more, considering there's even more content planned for the Project Aspec mod. For those of you who've never seen the Hot Lap Classic before, this is the series where I take all of the cars in Gran Turismo 2 and throw them around the most ill-fitting track in Gran Turismo 2, which is of course the Motorsports Land track. They get 6 laps to set the best time they possibly can. Corner cutting is perfectly legal because Gran Turismo 2 doesn't have track limits. It's a really fun series, lots of interesting surprises, and hopefully you will enjoy enough to keep on watching beyond this episode. Although I imagine this episode will be very popular because today we have the 1993 Renault Twingo. This is of course many people's favourite car from the Project Aspec mod for obvious reasons. Everyone loves a Twingo, this slightly ridiculous looking A-segment Renault that was produced sort of in the early 90s all the way up until about 2006, where they replaced it with a slightly less interesting looking version. And then it's gone from there, became a smart car, got cancelled, and now they're bringing it back as an EV. And how could they not? This is one of Renault's most iconic vehicles. It comes from a time where Renault wasn't really producing sort of fun, interesting vehicles. They were all very boxy, very capable, and sold very well, but this car really injected some personality back into Renault, which it desperately needed. And if you've been anywhere near France, I don't know if it's still like this, but when I went in around 2007, 2008, these things were everywhere. You saw these all the time, which was really cool as a UK citizen because we never got these natively for some reason. They sold a bazillion of these. There's a bunch of very interesting stories on how this car was constructed. It's essentially on a shortened Renault Clio platform, uses an ancient Renault engine. It shouldn't have worked, and yet somehow it did. And there was a lot of those cars in the 90s, thanks to Ford Ka, stuff like that, which was directly inspired by this. Now, when this car was first introduced in the 1.1 update, it didn't look nearly as good as this. This car has been remodeled in 1.2. It also was a little bit more powerful than this. It had a 75 horsepower engine. That's now been brought back to what this car should have as a 1993, which I think makes about 60 horsepower stock. And so as a result, the upgrade potential of this car has gone from 155 horsepower to 106. So this isn't going to be nearly as quick as it once would have been. But nevertheless, this is the one in the most recent update, and this is the one we're going to be using. So, front engine, front wheel drive, 106 horsepower, 860 kilograms. Not that much torque, not expecting this to be fast, but I guess we'll find out. This car is going to get 6 laps of the Motorsports Land track in order to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is, of course, the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak version. That car set a time of a 25.696, and the Renault Twingo, of course, will not be beating that. In terms of where this is going to go, I'm not too sure. I think the Vauxhall Corsa Sports, yep, 33.366. That had a little bit more power than this. Again, sort of very similar Super Mini S cars, so it'd be interesting to see how this stacks up against that, but I'm not expecting all that much out of the mighty Renault Twingo. It is a car that's going to look a lot faster. Well, I wouldn't say fast, but it's going to look cool while it's going around the track. As mentioned before, corner cutting on this is not only allowed, it's entirely implied, because that's the quickest way around this course. Gran Turismo 2 does not enforce track limits, and so in order to have any form of sort of track limits in this series, it would be far too complicated to pull off. So we did originally, on the very first episodes of the Hot Lap Classic, the original series, tried to keep it on the track, but it just became an absolute mess to try and keep track of, and so I've now developed some very unique lines through some of these corners. Again, might alienate some people, but the vast majority of the viewers don't really seem to mind, and so I'm definitely not changing it at this point. 34.931 is not a fantastic lap time. I've spoken before about these sort of slower vehicles taking almost more concentration than the faster vehicles do, because it is really a competition with yourself, seeing, you know, how much do you not want to use the brakes, how much can you just use the natural grip of the vehicle to take on the corners. We are going to go wide into here, so we're going to loop back round on ourselves just to not completely mess up this lap. You'll notice we have not achieved more than 100 kilometers an hour around this track. The Twingo is not a quick car. It is, however, a really good handling car. I'm very impressed with the handling of this. Obviously, you would expect a vehicle like this to not really have too much in the way of handling issues, and it really doesn't. It is absolutely glued to the road. Obviously, 106 horsepower is not really enough to cause this any issues, per se. So we're going to get one more lap in the Twingo. That is not helpful. Look at its face. Look at its fantastic face. The remodel on this car is excellent, by the way. Really, really good looking now. Before it was a little bit weird. I think it's had quite a few revisions. It's the shading's changed and a few other bits, but now it's been pretty much retextured, I think. And so, as a result of that, it does look very, very cool indeed. Shout out Nathan on that one. Oh, a little bit understeerish through that corner, but then again, we're sort of trying to push this far more than we should be. That was a bit of a Hail Mary. I think we are going to have to settle for that 34.931. Not quick, but yeah, can't say I really expected all that much out of the precious little Twingo, and at least it's quicker than a 35 second, so that's good. It does look hilarious going around here, it really does. What a fantastic little thing. Hopefully the splits tell us that we couldn't have been too much quicker. That is interesting, the splits actually tell us the quickest lap was not the quickest lap. We was on for a really good lap with that lap 4. Admittedly, sort of looking at that, there's probably only about 0.1, 0.2 in this if you really sort of pushed it to the limit. So I'm not going to be too disappointed taking that. And again, in terms of that max speed, this car can't even get over 60 miles an hour around the track. So, not a quick car, but definitely a fun car to drive. And as I said, handling-wise, it's spot on. So, this with a little bit more power, I don't know, say 155 horsepower instead of 106, could have been quite quick, but alas, that's the ropes. A 34.931 will place this into 633rd place. Now, interestingly, you'll notice there is a massive gap between this car and the car below it, which is the Honda Life T of about 0.8 second. Interestingly, nothing's really bridged that gap of the low 35s, which is really interesting. It is slower than the Mazda Roadster D-Rights, which for those of you who don't know was added with GT2 Plus, and that is essentially a non-upgradable version of the MX-5 1.8 RS, just with super soft tyres. It's slower than Mugen Beat, the Honda Beat version Z, the Honda Life T98, the Mitsubishi Minica PJ. It is quicker than the 97 Life T, the Honda Beat, the Midget, the 500R Toyota Prius. So, I mean, to be fair, I think the 500R and this aren't too far away in terms of power. The Life T was actually more like 120 horsepower, and it has a race mod, so actually not that bad of a performing vehicle, really. Obviously, if it was a fraction quicker, maybe we could have beaten the Mugen Beat with it, but yeah, it isn't going to go much quicker than that. It isn't a quick vehicle. That's not really the point of it. The point of it is to be fun and cheerful, and I'd argue it was. Anyways, that is it for this edition of the Hot Lap Classic Remastered and the first edition of the Project Aspec mod cars. As always, we will continue doing these until there is no more. In case you're wondering, that's going to bring us to 789 cars total on this leaderboard. You might also notice, as the Twingo goes in, I'll put a little asterisk or something next to a name just so you know which cars are added with the Project Aspec mod and which cars are the standard vanilla versions that we used in the original run. There is a YouTube playlist for those of you who want to watch through all the episodes of this that happened before, all 642 of them. There's also the omnibuses, which has all the videos in one giant 10-hour segment, if that's how you'd like to consume things. And also in the description, there is a link to the leaderboard for this series. So if you go onto that leaderboard, each car will have a hyperlink. Click the hyperlink, that'll take you to each episode individually if you're interested in how an individual car performed. But that's it for me. Thank you all very much for watching. Join me next time when I will be driving something completely different. And in this mod, it will be very much completely different. And until then, farewell.